How many times have you said, "I'm sorry," without meaning it? How often have you gone through the motions, speaking the right words, performing the expected gestures, quietly hoping God wouldn't notice how distant your heart had become? How many times have you relied on habit instead of sincerity, routine instead of repentance, familiarity instead of love? Here's a truth few are willing to confront. Religious activity can continue long after the soul has gone silent. Faith can remain visible on the outside while something essential slowly deteriorates within. A person can look faithful, sound faithful, attend services, pray regularly, and even believe they are faithful, while something inside has already withered from neglect. The danger is subtle because everything appears normal, but beneath the surface, the interior life is fading. Spiritual decay rarely announces itself dramatically. It usually arrives quietly, through prayers spoken without attention, through confessions made without honesty, through a conscience dulled by repetition and comfort. Over time, urgency disappears, warnings lose their edge, truth becomes easier to postpone. And the most terrifying danger is not losing your soul unknowingly, but realizing the truth only when it can no longer be repaired. Picture this. Tonight you receive absolute certainty that your life will end in 7 days. Not years, not months, 1 week, no extensions, no exceptions. What suddenly becomes urgent, what once seemed important now feels irrelevant. Who would you reach out to first? Which conversations would you regret postponing? Which words would you wish you had spoken more honestly? Most people live as if time were endless, as if tomorrow were guaranteed. We delay apologies. We postpone healing. We tolerate broken relationships and wounded consciences because we assume there will always be another opportunity, another day, another season, another chance, until suddenly there isn't. In moments like this, imagine one. Clarity arrives brutally. Excuses collapse. Pride feels foolish. Comfort loses its grip. What remains is the truth about how we lived and what we failed to confront. Many people treat confession like paperwork, something to get done quickly, efficiently, without complication. A routine obligation meant to keep things in order. Words are spoken. The familiar formula is followed. Relief is felt. The task is completed. But relief is not the same as conversion. Relief fades quickly. Transformation does not. A ritual completed is not the same as a heart changed. Confession without interior honesty becomes a transaction instead of an encounter. It soothes anxiety without healing the wound. It quiets guilt without addressing its source. It allows life to continue unchanged. Ask yourself honestly, when was the last time you prepared for confession with the same seriousness you prepare for things that truly matter to you, your career, your reputation, your financial future, your goals? Most people walk into the confessional unprepared, repeating familiar phrases, choosing safe language, carefully avoiding what would truly expose them. They leave reassured, convinced that everything is fine, without ever confronting what actually needs healing. But nothing is hidden from God. Appearances may convince people. Performance may impress communities. But eternity is not impressed by surface-level faith. God does not listen only to words. He sees intentions. He weighs truth, not presentation. Christian history preserves sobering accounts of souls judged not by what they appeared to be, but by what they truly were. One vision speaks of individuals admired for their faith, praised for their generosity, respected for their devotion, yet found spiritually hollow. Their prayers were frequent, their works were visible, their reputation was intact, but their repentance was never real. Fear motivated them. Habit carried them. Obligation sustained them. But love never transformed them. Their religious life existed, but it never reached the heart. What saved some of those souls was not their own virtue, discipline, or consistency. It was prayers whispered by others, friends they had forgotten, strangers they never met, hidden communities living lives of sacrifice. Saints unseen. Invisible intercession became the difference between loss and mercy. This should shake us, because it reveals how dependent we are on grace and on one another. Yet even mercy carried consequences. What could have been healed gently during life required painful purification after death. What sincere honesty could have resolved early demanded suffering later. Grace was given, but at a cost that could have been avoided. So ask yourself, who is praying for you? Are you spiritually connected, supported by unseen bonds of intercession, or quietly alone? And are you using the gifts you've been given while there is still time to use them well? Now come some uncomfortable questions. After your last confession, did anything actually change in your life? Did old patterns weaken, even slightly, or did everything resume exactly as before? Do you ever sit in silence and seriously examine your conscience, or do you improvise when the moment arrives? Are there truths you consistently refuse to say aloud? Do you leave confession feeling deep peace, or merely relief that it's finished? If these questions disturb you, that disturbance is not your enemy. It is a sign of life. A sign that your conscience is still awake. Our culture hates responsibility. Everything becomes a diagnosis, a label, an explanation that removes moral weight. And while wounds and trauma are real, this mindset quietly strips us of accountability. Some patterns persist not because we are powerless, but because change demands sacrifice, discipline, and humility. Here is the freeing truth. You still have agency. You still choose. You are not merely carried by impulses and circumstances. You are not a passive victim of your habits, and those choices matter far more than you've been led to believe. Real confession begins when you stop blaming circumstances and admit quietly and honestly, I chose this. Until that moment, repentance remains shallow. Without ownership, there can be no real healing. Think about the habits you've confessed for years with little change. Perhaps the issue is not weakness, but incomplete honesty. Behaviors are admitted, but desires are protected. Actions are named, but the inner roots are left untouched. Grace is invited only halfway. Spiritual wisdom teaches that radical honesty, even without strong emotion, breaks chains. Truth spoken fully weakens what secrecy empowers. Freedom often begins before feelings follow. Grace responds to honesty, not performance. But honesty requires silence. Real silence. No screens. No noise. No distractions. Just you, God, and the truths you usually avoid. Ask precise questions. Where did I choose myself over love? What lies did I justify to protect my comfort? What good did I avoid because it required effort or sacrifice? Then ask for divine light, because self-deception comes naturally to us all. We need help to see clearly. And consider this. Why do you plan your weekends with more care than your soul? Why does your calendar reflect priorities your conscience does not? Why is so much energy spent protecting comfort and so little spent pursuing holiness? Spiritual hygiene, like physical hygiene, requires consistency. Waiting a year to cleanse what accumulates daily only makes healing more difficult. Those who cared for their souls regularly didn't become flawless, but they became stable, peaceful, resilient. They were not perfect, but they were honest. You don't need extremes. You need intention, regularity, awareness. There are also promises of grace for those who persevere in prayer, especially through Marian devotion, not as an escape from responsibility, but as support for those who struggle sincerely. Grace completes what effort alone cannot accomplish. If this message unsettles you, that is a gift. Comfort rarely transforms anyone. Truth does. And if you want content that challenges shallow faith and calls you into real interior transformation, subscribe to the YouTube channel Living Hope. This is a space for those who want depth, truth, and courage, not comforting illusions. Faith is not a solitary journey. Pray for others. Build unseen bonds. One prayer may save a soul you will never meet, and one day, someone else's prayer may save yours. Now comes the only question that truly matters. Will this remain information, or will it become action? Mercy is available now, not later, not someday. Now, while you can still choose, don't ignore the moment.